Let's do a show. You can't do that. Sales force. Hi, it's Tom. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of You Can't Do That at Cactusforce. What's going on? I'm going. I'm gonna go to Cactusforce in Phoenix. I guess technically Scottsdale. I don't know the geography over there very well. Next week, Friday, Cactusforce session. Flow and code, living together, mass hysteria. That's my session name. Yeah, maybe you can imagine what that's going to turn into. Basically, me yammering on about why I love this platform and what I've done with flow, what I've done with code, where I see some opportunities for the two to live in harmony, and maybe share some opinions that I don't know what people will think about them at the event. But anyway, I thought I'd use this episode to do some brainstorming about what I think the demo content is going to be. Look back at some previous projects that I've done on the show, and probably steal some content out of those. I don't know how much build we'll do today, but you can listen to me yammer on about about this stuff, and see where we go. I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping real quick, make sure that stream is actually working where it should be working, and YouTube looks good, and Twitch looks good, and LinkedIn looks good. All right, cool. We are everywhere we want to be. So yeah, let's get after this. How's this going to work? I think this is going to be kind of. Let's do some work in a very non-high-tech text editor mode here. I'm gonna bring up YCDRPG.org. We'll start there because I got some thoughts about how to do that, and then let's also collect some notes about what this could look like. And before I do that, I really am trying to get better at OBS, but I'm still kind of learning how to manage these here windows in the app. So let's see. And I probably should be a good kid and get this stuff set up before the show, but you know how it goes. Day jobs and stuff, right? Right. Okay, that looks like something. And let's make it pretty and put it behind the thing. Wide enough, tall enough. There we go. Okay. All right. Here's our this is our YCD RPG project. I did not push episode 10 into the repo yet. Will do. I don't think we'll need the whole time to figure out demo type stuff, so maybe we will jump into some YCD RPG later during the show. But for now, what the heck are we demoing at Cactusforce? Well, the name of the show, or the name of the session, is Flow and Code, Living Together, Mass Hysteria. I'm an old person, so I remember the original Ghostbusters movie, and that was a Bill Murray line that when he was talking to the mayor about what they were going to do to get the ghosts out of New York City. That was one of my favorite lines. It's always been my favorite line. I feel like you can use it. It plays everywhere. All right. It wasn't Flow and Code. It was dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria, and I think there was something about human sacrifices before at the start of his quote. So that's why I posted that picture on LinkedIn with the intro. So there's some context there, but for anybody who's younger than 44, they might not. I was even surprised. Like I was only like 5 when that movie came out, and I don't know if I was supposed to be watching it as a 5-year-old, but I did, and I liked it, and yeah. But it's an old reference, which I repurposed the title for. So anyway, what are my intentions with this session? Let me find my I had to write an abstract for the for my submission. Let's see if I can find that again. There we go. So I had some initial thoughts. I don't know if they're exactly where I'm gonna go with this, but here's where it started. In this session, I'll reflect on a lineage of experimentation at the boundary between code and flow and share some bold and possibly unpopular opinions and patterns that have arisen as reliable, adaptable, and repeatable. Demo some concepts, including, so these were my big thoughts at the moment when I was laying this out. Flows, your new configuration panel. Flows aren't just for process execution. They make excellent configuration panels for many aspects of your org. So this, where I was thinking in these lines is sometimes we build flows because the data points are more accessible within the flow, even if automation is ultimately running against that flow, versus having it buried in code and having to change custom settings, custom metadata, those sorts of things. Flows also sometimes get built to seed data downstream when you're executing elsewhere. So that in a sense is kind of configuration for the execution chain that's about to run. So that was kind of a thought that I had and that I think we've done in a few places. So bold, unpopular opinion possibly is I do believe that Apex triggers are dying, and we shouldn't write them anymore because that's what Flow does, and Flow actually gives us better control from a execution, right? And they give us the Flow sequence that we can start to manage, provided that you're building some nice small encapsulated flows. You can use that model and finally start moving away from like trigger frameworks and stuff like that. Now, there are definitely reasons, I'm sure, for using triggers instead of flow, but they seem to be narrowing down. So we can explore that concept as well. The third one, LWCs, the end of Aura enabled. So reactive flows will change the responsibilities of your LWCs. They will not need SOQL. They will not need to DML. They will need to worry about presenting great UIs to users, and Flow can handle the rest. So we've done a lot of this in Uno. We've done a lot of this in YCDRPG. We've got these screen flows that execute logic, but around them are these screens that use LWCs, and we've been building those LWCs. If you've watched other episodes, my whole mantra when building those is no Apex, right? Maybe some DML if they need to, and I think we discovered a few cases where these LWCs need to ask for more data versus what's being passed into them. But I think it's a pattern that can hold up, and we're seeing it with YCDRPG. We saw it with Uno, so I think those are like kind of the two that I would target for this one. So we'll target Uno and YCDRPG for this topic. Now, since having submitted this, I had a couple other thoughts. And these might be in addition to or in replacement of a couple of these other ones, but I think it depends on really how much time I have, right? So these are all sort of in defense of flow, right? So let flow do the work. Configuration panels, flows as configuration panels, the death of triggers and replacement of flow, and LWCs that are sort of not dumb, but focus on UI presentation. Now, in defense of Apex, I think that's another. There's a flip side to this. Invocables, right? And I don't mean just. I think I would call this generic invocables to save your sanity. Can we do a lot of stuff in Flow? Yes. Can we reference? Let's see. We can reference standard formula or standard functions, Salesforce functions and flows. I should say Salesforce formula functions, which is cool. We can build. We can build stuff. We can build flows that do heavy processing / calculations / loops. But I would argue that we don't want to build those kinds of flows. Rather, what we want to look for is patterns. And in looking for patterns, we can do abstractions. And in doing abstractions, we can use invocables. I think for a lot of things that are otherwise cumbersome in Flow. Loops, they're cumbersome in Flow. Nested loops are really cumbersome in Flow. Loops are accessible to us. It's great that they're there, and we need to loop over data and do other stuff. That's fine. In my experience, though, it's the loops and the nested loops, and having to do iterate through a loop to do math, right? To sum a value within the items in that loop or things like that. It feels cumbersome. They take some, we're not, this isn't a sprint. We don't need to get through our flow super fast, but I find it kind of slows me down when I have to work through a loop. And it definitely starts to slow down when I'm going to count up, or I'm going to sum the total of all of these field values, the same field, each iteration, and get a number at the end. It's also, there are also cases where the Salesforce functions, the native formula functions, don't cover the whole gamut of what we might need to do for a string manipulation or random numbers. We've been doing random numbers at YCDRPG because they help support the game engine. We've also done a loop replacement for those things like summing and averaging and things like that. So rather than do a loop, pass your collection to an invocable, tell it what you want it to do, some kind of summary, right? Some kind of aggregate function, and have it return, the expected value, and tell it what field to execute against. That's a repeatable invocable over and over and over again. So the whole emphasis here, I think, is and some of the things to target, I think, for this topic would again be YCDRPG. It would be Apex Flow, right? Which I did kind of abandon. I admit it was getting a little overwhelming. I needed to take a breath. I think I was in a rabbit hole with that project. It was fun. It was a great learning experience, but it was getting kind of complex. But I think the intent of Apex Flow remains and is relevant here. Make more smaller. Make more small Apex calls. So I could write a Salesforce formula function. I could write a Salesforce formula with lots of functions. But, it gets, it just gets nasty, right? And even before Flow, if you were to, you go to Stack Exchange and say, how do I write a function, or how do I write a formula that identifies the first, what's the day of the week for this date? You can do that. And I think there's been some new functions that will give you weekday or give you a number or things like that. But we could also just have an Apex, an invocable that says, get day of week. And then rather than having to write a really kind of thick formula within your flow and having to write that over and over and over again, we encapsulate that in an invocable. Apex has that capability, and it'll pass it back to us. The alternative would be write a subflow that you pass the values in and it does the calculation. But really, like there are some cases where in those set it and forget it needs where it's not about business logic. It's about execution, right? It's about execution and returning a value. So I'm not condoning that we bury business logic in Flow. So these invocables are not about business logic. They're algorithms, basically. Algorithms / methods that you can call into, get what you need, perform a calculation, come back, and that's it, right? I would also argue that our business logic, right, like our business logic should elevate to the into the flow as much as we can. They tell a story, right? Every business logic requirement has a path that it follows, and if I put that in the flow, I can document it, I can visualize it, I can make it more accessible, I can go find out why it's doing what it's doing, without a developer having to crack open code. That's really the essence of that. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't document. It doesn't mean that we don't understand what those things are doing. It just makes it more approachable when it's time. And then again, let code do good code stuff. Let flow do good flow stuff. So now, and my boundary line is Apex does algorithms and function executions. Flow does business logic. Orchestration, not to confuse with the flow orchestrator, but it lays out the path through which those things should run. And by business logic, I'm also talking like, okay, this, when this happens, this value needs to be calculated because reason. That's, those are record trigger flows. And then when I need an experience that needs to be mediated, then that's a screen flow. Right? There's probably also maybe a topic around, maybe similar to the LWCs, but I would say, the anti-pattern here is, I would say building. Maybe this is a topic unto itself. Building apps without screen flow. Right. We have reactivity in flows. We have the LWC flow, boundary, where I'll say LWC flow communication. Pass parameters in, get parameters back. They reactively update in the screen that you're on. This is only going to continue to grow. So my argument here is, unless you, and I could say this, like, unless you need a very custom branded experience, just use ScreenFlow. and then I think the other piece here is like for input and output. So I've built flows that would otherwise you'd otherwise need a report for. So, and what's their purpose? Well, you go to a record and you find a key piece of data, or you calculate a key piece of data for visualization's sake, and then you can surface it in a screen flow with no UI, no header, no footer in that flow. It just renders data on the page. So, whereas the alternative is write an LWC to do that. You can build it with Flow, and again, it's more accessible. There's an aspect of do I have to deploy? Right now, I'm not saying do work in production necessarily. We should probably all have a nice, a good software development life cycle and DevOps around things, but to at least again from an approachability perspective, you can probably do a little bit better analysis of a flow than code from from an administrator side of things. I just dropped something really heavy on the floor. Sorry about that. That was real loud. So I think that's there's another pattern there to consider. So let's see. We talked about building apps without screen flow, generic invocables to save your sanity. I got another one. Call flow from Apex. Okay, so if we are putting our business logic into Flow, if we need to call that business logic more than once, I could design my flow so that it's callable from Apex. I could pass it parameters and get results back. Now, I have a project that we haven't worked on YCD on the show that I call Mass Batch, and I think that's a good one to demo here. So Mass Batch started out as basically a way to touch records in a batch process so that execution could occur, right? Traditionally, it's like, okay, pick a bunch of accounts, pick all accounts that have been created this year, and just touch them. So we called it wumping back in the day, and its sole purpose was to nudge the record to re-execute at that time triggers, right? So go re-execute all of the calculations that you need to. So that's how it started. Then I started thinking like, well, wouldn't it be cool if Mass Batch could be a little more subjective in what it's executing? So yes, if I had Mass Batch, I replaced my triggers with record triggered flows, the execution would happen again. But I don't always want that execution to occur, right? I might have some special purpose flows that maybe something that performs a calculation against a set of data once a night. I don't want it to be called every time that data is triggering. I want to manage it in a different way. And so Mass Batch having that got me thinking, well, we could configure a Mass Batch to call a flow, passing in. Hopefully it's self-evident that the other purpose of Mass Batch is to perform these executions in batch mode. So you get a little bit more execution time, you get a little bit more performance bump, those sorts of things. And then within the context of the batch, it calls a flow on each record or each batch of records. I've been working with Mass Batch to run one record at a time. So, excuse me. I'm not bored. I'm just tired. So then I was thinking, okay, so if Mass Batch can iterate over these records, why not have a call flow that's not record triggered, so I can subjectively say, hey, I want I want to execute these, and I just want this to run against them. So we can pass it there's an interface that supports mass batch. Not I guess an interface. An interface in flow sense, right? If you build a flow that you want to work with mass batch, you want to be able to take the records, the record or records that the flow is executing against, and then you might want to pass it other parameters, right? That are exposed for input. So that's what mass batch does, and then mass batch also chains. Can also chain mass batch calls together. So you can design a little bit of a, kind of an orchestration, right? I take these records and I pass them here to this batch, and when that batch is done, I call another one, and I want it to run this flow or these flows, and then et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So where have we done some of that? Well, we do some overnight data processing in our Salesforce org, which is also our professional services org. This is at my day job. This is over at Red Argyle, not at YCD. To calculate calculate revenue, calculate costs on projects and things like that. Stuff that we don't need in real time, and can frankly be a little expensive to run in real time, because in order to get this value on this record, I need to run this batch first to prep this data elsewhere, and then I have access to that data. Because we're talking in aggregates, right? Like, what was the revenue per day, per project? Those sorts of things all get stored, and then I need to what was the cost and what was the margin? Those kinds of things. So I've got some examples of that, and I think mass batch would be a good. Would be a good. I'm just tired. Mass batch would be a good example for this, for calling flow from Apex. Triggers, I think this one's almost kind of self-explanatory, but I think we could look at maybe look at Uno and YCD RPG for this one too, just to show record triggered flows and what they're doing and that sort of thing. We talked about LWCs, and we talked about flows. I'm trying to think of an example where I've got flows as a configuration panel. That one I might need to kind of conjure up an example for. If I can't find one that we did before. That's fine. Is there a good example for triggers? I wonder. What would we want to show? Triggers are dying. Maybe we could show the conversion of yeah, maybe the trigger and the parallels. Or I'm sorry, the conversion and the parallels for that. LWCs, I think I got that covered pretty well. LWCs and apps with screen flows, those two are kind of related. But maybe we also want to maybe a second example here, just to show the kind of start. Maybe we actually kind of build one in real time. I could have some components waiting in the wings to set that up with. We'll see. Maybe we're talking about this alongside the LWCs because they really are pretty related. Okay, so that's on that screen flow. Generic invocables. Yep. Call flow from Apex. So we got one. What do we got? 1, 2. Ooh, I can do a flippy flip on these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 topics. And I don't know how much time I get. Does it tell me? So the thing with Cactusforce is it's more of a dev heavy event. So more code, less fluff, less slides, more demos, conversations with the audience. Talk should be in a live org, IDE to show how and why you designed and built that way. No pitches, no spamming. I like it. Selected based on their educational value to attendees. No sponsoring. So I just don't know how long it's going to be or how much time. Let's see if I can. And I'm obviously on another screen here looking at code of contact, job seekers. Logistics, sponsoring, speaking. Okay. First ever hybrid, COVID. Speaker template. Oh, I think I still have to register. I just realized that. $602 lightning talks. I don't think I signed up for one of those. Saguaro, Agave, and Prickly Pear who purchased 602 talk add-on may include product or app. If your company name or product is not listed with sponsors below, please remove any company reference or product branding. Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know. So details beyond name, title, and social link. All right. What else we got here? So I'm not exactly sure how long it is. Let's see. What was calls for talks? The format will be that each speaker is given a significant chunk of time to present their case study, followed by Q&A. Okay, so this is different. I don't think there's a time limit. How solution was built, live demo of code, architecture design, or declarative automation, not slides. Interactive sessions are encouraged. The audience will expect a tangible and actionable learning that they can apply after the conference. The format will be that each speaker is given a significant chunk of time to present their case study, followed by Q&A. So I think they're just going to stack us up and present one after the other. Maybe. So all right. So I don't need to fill the time. That's kind of helpful because I don't know. I think what I can also do is kind of scale accordingly, right? If people want to, if I'm running light or running short or what have you, I can tailor the topics that are here. 6 is a lot. Having done these before, like, if it was a 40-minute session, which I think when I was at Northeast Streaming, that's how long that one was. I hammered on my presentation and I hit my timing, which was good, but it goes so fast. And I'm willing to bet that even hitting 3 or 4 of these is probably going to be tight. Yeah. So, so I got to think a little bit more about like what's the big so what with each of these. I think the big so what is being able to show mass batch with calling flow from Apex. The big so what with generic invocables is to demonstrate what those look like and how they would function within a flow and what to think about when I'm designing those generic invocables. The big so what with building apps without screen flow. I think this one really does tie with the LWCs. I think the big so what here is to show the interplay between the two and the minimalism that can come into the LWCs. The big so what for triggers. Again, this isn't one that gets covered as much, unless maybe the benefits are, or the so what is the benefits versus benefits of flow versus trigger. This does also tie into mass batch a little bit. It does also tie into call flow from Apex. The big so what for flows as configuration panels. I think there's a UI implication here. There's an admin approachability aspect of this. So, and maybe there's a repeatable approach to this potentially. Got to think on that one a little bit more. And again, I feel like I have a good example of this somewhere, but we'll need to find it. So, all right. So those are. I feel better. Feel better about that. I need to go gather my stuff. Some of this I don't really need to gather. I just need to get into orgs. I probably need to get a scratch org together for Uno again. So I guess the actions that I need to take from here. Oops. So my next actions are, I'm going to need get a scratch org for Uno. Get a scratch org for YCD RPG. Let's say for RPG, which we have, but I just want to make sure it's just make sure it doesn't expire like the day of. And I need to get a scratch org for mass batch. Oh, I need to open a door for a dog who's lonely. 1 second. So Uno will take care of LWCs and apps without screen flow. Apex flow. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if I can get that many scratch orgs. I might need another dev org or dev hub to make that happen. But yeah, then I think then I just kind of get my game. Oh, so the other thing I'd love to do, and I'll have to see. This is going to be a game day decision. Can I stream? Can I stream? Can I stream the Prezzo? Can I stream the session on YCD? Or YCD, yeah, TOSF. Could we do that? What do we need? You need to take camera. You need to take tripod. Probably need a wide lens. We need let's see, I got OBS on my machine. I obviously need to take my laptop. It's kind of important. See how our internet connection is. Hopefully decent. If we got to also demo live. What else would I? Yeah, I think I just need to, and then I just probably need 10 minutes to set up, if that's possible. Backup might be my phone. I definitely want to record it, so I'd love to figure out how to make that happen. Just partly for posterity's sake. But if it can stream, cool. We'll see what we can do with that. But I'll take my stuff and see how it goes. And I've never been to Arizona. I think I have been to Arizona once, but it was sort of kind of an accident. I had a layover after a weird set of circumstances on a plane ride. We had to land. I took off from Rochester, New York, and we had to land in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Big plane on a tiny airstrip, and they had to get somebody off the plane. Super weird. I don't really know what the guy wasn't. He wasn't like being belligerent or anything. This was a long time ago. This was probably like the mid-aughts, so it was still like a post 9/11 world, like really, really heightened security and awareness on planes. Not that it isn't now, but it was just different then. That was just weird. So the story goes, I took off from Rochester, landed in Wilkes-Barre. There was no way we were going to get to where we needed to go. I think I ended up in Detroit, and then I got on a plane to Phoenix, and they gave me a hotel overnight, which I got to stay in for like 4 hours because I had to get up the next morning because I was going to Denver. I got up the next morning, got on a plane, to go to Denver. Now, the cool part is I got to ride first class on the plane from Detroit to Phoenix. So that was a nice consolation, but weird sequence of events with that. Anyway, there's my life story. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. All right. I think we got it. I have some work to do, but I don't think I don't think a lot of this is far off. So, um, I think we're good. I think we're good. Wasn't sure how long that was going to take, but in talking it through, um, we've got some good material here. I guess the only other reflections would be maybe again, I don't want to promote, you know, but at my company at Red Argyle, um, you know, I think I've 90% configured flow and 10% written code to support our uh, our company's org. I do still, you know, in my role, I don't work on projects as much, but I work on internal stuff quite a bit to try and make operations better for the company. At YCD, TOSF, we have a flow first mantra, and I think that's been largely recognized, unless we get into some. I mean, Apex Flow was very, very code heavy because we were trying to turn code into accessible flows. And what did we work on? Long time ago. Um, the inefficient icon inventory. that was pretty. That was pretty flow, or I'm sorry, that was pretty code heavy because there was just a lot of. It was very LWC heavy. We were trying to break stuff basically with LWCs. And rock paper scissors was I think a little of both. I think we tried to build the business logic into flow, and then we were working on a custom UI for showing the words escape me, for showing the fights. And rock paper scissors is so simple. You're just like boop. But even going back and revisiting that, there's probably some ways to embed or to do that differently with flow. Do the screen, layout anyway. All right. It's not meant to be a code is bad or flow is bad session, but I think there's some practices that can be revisited and refactored because the platform continues to evolve, and we should embrace the things that it can do. I guess maybe one other example would be call outs, right? Uh, what did I just do there? So call outs in flow. No more HTTP request. Eventually. This space is evolving quite a bit, and I have an example of where it does work, and then an example of where it doesn't really work, and it really comes down to the payload, right? So if the payload is consistent, I guess I should say the request body, right? If the structure of the API is guaranteed, and you don't have to, I guess I can describe what's good with by describing what's bad. I was working with something recently, I forget, and it expected what amounted to a map of objects as one of the properties of in the body. So it gets JSONified eventually, but that property had an indeterminate number of child properties that you could assign to it. There's just no way to do that yet. There's no way to do that yet, or I should say, there's no way to do that efficiently yet with callouts. So that really wasn't going to be an option. But if your request payloads are consistent, and you know what you need to send, and it's a finite number of fields. Call out some flow, man. Named credentials, like named credentials aren't flow exclusive, but named credentials are going to guarantee more security. In fact, I think my example was having one Salesforce org call to another Salesforce org with the REST API, and for doing a query or something like that, it works. Works no problem. Depending on what you need to send over the wire, we can when we send API calls, it's the fields that are indeterminate, and the flow UI, the flow interpretation of what a sample request looks like. There's just no way to have those open-ended property maps in there yet. So maybe there's something about that that we could show off. There. Yep. That's plenty. I don't think we need more than 7. I don't think we're going to get to all 7. So I probably have to I think that's enough. All right. The good news is I don't feel like I have a ton of like homework to do here. I just need to get my org straight, really, because we'll be doing a little bit of flipping around for this. But yeah, that's pretty good. So we have some time to build some stuff, and let's pick up where we left off with YCD RPG. I'm going to let's take a quick break, and let me find my quick break picture. Let me try to find anything here. Where's my Finder window? There it is. I may or may not actually have this still. I don't know. I'm terrible when it comes to assets for the show. They all just end up as files on my desktop. Let's see if we can find it. I'm gonna sneeze. I'm gonna hold on. Oh, that was refreshing. I don't know if y'all heard that. I have this giant file. Here, I'll show you all this. Behind the scenes of the show, where the sausage gets made. I have this. This is my Illustrator file for all things you can't do branding. And hello, there it is. Rattle off a lot of material. Let's see. Yeah, you can just see. All right, cool. You can just see that. So yeah, this is where all the stuff gets built for the show. Actually have maybe this is going to happen someday. You can do that on Salesforce. I haven't really come back to that. The good news is it's the same acronym. Yeah, maybe there'll be a positive spin to the you can't someday. But anyway, let's here. You can all just see what I'm about to do. Oops. Will be right hack. Fitting. We'll be right back. Take this. Export selection. There we go. Get a new image. Call it BRB. Find whatever we just made. There we go. Put it up here. And there we go. Let's take we'll take 5 minutes. I gotta grab a drink and maybe grab a super quick lunch in the form of an apple and or a banana. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Y'all can't see me talking, but there we are. All right. See you in a minute. we're back. And we're done with, this concludes my branding work for the day. Let's let's do some RPGing. Now that my session is perfectly 100% ready to go, there'll be some work over the weekend, I suppose. Oh, so many screens. So many screens. Too many? Maybe too many. Here we go. Back to YCD. Here's hoping that my scratch org is still scratching. Yes, it is. Which one do we want for this? I think here. Yep. There we go. All right. Let's party. Is that too long? No, should be good. Where were we? I guess this is now technically episode 11. So let's do a little GitHub work. Let's be good repo people. These were our changes from last time. So we were trying to figure out probability last time. We were working on our. I think one thing I'd like to do is maybe like draw a little diagram of what YCD RPG, what it looks like, or really what the data ends up looking like as you're going through it. Top of my head was getting cut off. That's just not. It's just not okay. There we go. What's the data look like as you work through a game, the YCD RPG? Because there's a lot of layers, and if we look at the data diagram, that kind of works. But if we look at, maybe if we see the data in motion, it'll make a little bit more sense. But anyway, let's get our code up there. This was all episode 10. Episode 10. Let's push this. Yes. And it should definitely have a remote branch. I'm not sure why it doesn't think that. All right. Let's open up GitHub. One more screen. There we go. Okay. So, all right, episode 10, and we definitely have a branch for that, so I'm not sure what happened. Let's set up a pull request for this. I'm not being terribly wordy with these. Merge, no conflicts. Let's merge up into main. Should be good. All right. Let's make a new branch. Okay. And now let's check out our new branch. There we go. I don't know why this has two numbers side by side with it. All right. Thank you, GitHub. Your job here is done. Isn't this weird? Seems weird. Oh, because it's a tracking. Never mind. All right. So probability, but first diagram. Oh wait, I'm not logged in there. Draw.io. All right. Okay, so this is our. Oh, well, that was. What was that? That was crazy. This is our data model, but let's talk about the story of how a game comes to be. So when we create a new game, it's like just a container for quests, right? We design all these quests. That's what we're working on right now. The probability is what type of step you have in a game quest. So maybe if I lay this out even a little bit a little bit simpler. So within an entire game, quest starts. And these are not the objects that I'm describing, right? This is just sort of the terminology within the game if I was an end user, right? So I get a new game, right? And every game has a quest, at least one. Every quest has at least one step, but it's usually more. Put another one down here, way down, because we're going to describe a few other things. So when I'm in a step, right now, we create rounds. So rounds are fighting. Should add a few other things here. So when we get a new game, we also get our players. Our heroes is probably the right word for that. So new game, I get players. The players go on a quest. Every quest has a step. Every step has one or more rounds. When we get to a step, that's when we get monsters. So we could have, two, let's say, 3 players, 3 monsters, sure. The whole purpose of a round is to fight monsters until they die or they kill you. So when we have rounds, we create turns. Each turn ends up being a player. Oops. Each turn ends up being a player versus a monster. Let's do this. Ah, you're a square, not a rectangle. Shucks. And then we would have multiple of these, one or more. Really, whoops. We would actually have 5 in our example, or 6 in our example here. So I'm going to simplify this a little bit. We're going to take away a player and a monster, because every player every player gets to go, and every monster gets to go if they're still alive. Darn it. I'm having trouble copying and pasting here. There we go. So player versus monster, and then these are sequenced randomly. So really the whole round is kind of predetermined, at least insofar as the monsters or who's going at each step. The players are actively managed by the player of the game, so they choose which monster is gonna be fought. The monsters just pick kind of, auto magically down in their turns. So you can see game, players, quest, step, monsters introduced at the step. We do a round of battle. We'll do multiple rounds from here until the battle is over, when either all of the heroes or all of the monsters are dead. And then we move on to our next step. Now there's a cycle here that does not include what we haven't looked at is like rewards. Right at the end of a round, we do some. I don't think we do anything right now. We got to talk about experience points and treasure chests and stuff like that, but we'll get there someday. If all of the this one, if all of the monsters and players are not dead at the end of a round, we build another round. We redo all of this with the remaining monsters and players. And once that's done, we're done with the round, and then we go to another step. And then we introduce new monsters, we create rounds, and we move on. What we're working on right now is what type of step is it? Is it a cave? Is it a volcano? Is it what have you? When we're done with a step, we might have another quest. And we'll keep going through quests until we run out of quests to play. A game is comprised of one or more quests. And the game ends either when our players die or when our players complete all the quests. So game over. And that's it. Okay. So there's a bunch of relationships between here, obviously, that take us through, a step. These are just kind of like the canonical. Is that the right use of that? The canonical names of. If I was playing this game, this is what things would be called. In reality, they have a bunch of crazy names that describe the hierarchy that they relate to, and that's when we come back to this. So this view is what allows us to do this. I'll get rid of this stuff on the top here. No, we can leave that. It's fine. So this is kind of how the engine, not kind of, this is how the engine works right now. And go over to my object model. So where we're working right now is with steps, quest steps, and trying to figure out this probability thing, which is kind of was not when we left our last episode. This was not really agreeing with anything. And I feel like we have some tests for this too. Maybe not. Yep. Let's move these over. All right. So here was a test. So the tests were working, but the game was not. Or at least the game might have been working. It's hard to, because we, as we create new steps, we have to do the whole battle, right, between the two. So and I had yet to see if we go. So let's go look at some data. Let's go to our app. So here's our game. And let's look at quests. So Dark Cave of Darkness has 2 quest steps associated with it, and quest step is really where the probability of that type of step gets determined. So in our case, the Dark Cave of Darkness, a cave in that quest has a 75% chance of being generated, and a forest has a 25% chance of being generated. Now, I have yet to see within this game so this was a cave. This was a cave. It may be that we just are, because of the odds, we're getting a lot of caves. One thing I could do, like let's play this game. And I wonder if we can get any debug data out of our flow. Oh, you guys are still seeing the diagram. Sorry about that. I got to work on my screen management. So here's our play flow. Which is responsible for everything. Okay, so we're playing this game quest and this game quest step. Now I could just adjust our monsters. Make their hit points real low so we can get through these a little faster. Still not sure about that whole weird rounding thing with the hit points, but you know. All right, refresh this. These guys should both be about ready to die. Yep. So Thor. Merlin. What did we get this time? Oops. Still a cave. So I wonder if maybe I can process this. I want to kind of simulate this. Because I want to see it actually kick out the... First, let's make sure that it's actually... Oh, wait, we're in the wrong flow. We want to see new game quest step. So here's where we're passing in the the name of the field and the records in question. And that's our request. So I think I could, yeah, we could make a little kind of test run of this, like not a unit test, but you know, just like let's see how this is working in reality. I will steal from the unit test though, because it has a bunch of this written already. We'll do this against our actual data too. Okay. What are we going to query out? We want quest steps for ouch. Let's do it for whatever quest we got here. So let's select ID and probability from quest step where quest equals dark. All right, so that gives us our quest steps to process, so we don't need to do this now. And I don't want to test random. I want to get my data out. Let's do this. Let's take a string. Let's add on the outs.1 dot name dot, I'm sorry, collect, let's see, select ID. Let's do step dot name here. Outs dot step dot name plus, throw a new line in there. And then, so let's run this. We can run this part. We'll do 10 runs to start, and then we can crank it up from there. And then we'll debug. So I'm going to call this 10 times with the data that I have in the real world, in the org, and let's see if we can figure out what's going on here. I just want to see a park get created, or I'm sorry, a forest step type get created, and I don't know if we're gonna get that. So let's find out. Oh wait, variable does not exist. Step R. This is quest step. Oh, let's see. That's odd. I wonder, do we lose it as it goes through the invocable? That would be strange. Oh, wait. This is, I'm sorry. We need to cast this, I think. Yeah, this is... Oh, wait, there's no... Yeah, there's... All right, I did a couple things wrong there. So there's no outs one, obviously. Because it should just return a single result. clear this. Incompatible types response. My bad. Having a heck of a time here. This is records. This is outs.records. 0. There we go. I only wrote it. I don't know how it works. Now what? Oh wait, outs.record. Did we get a null pointer? Interesting. Well, let's debug our what's returned. Null? This is not returning anything. Why? I'm in the dev console real quick, just doing a query. Select step. Oh, because I can't spell. Can't spell. Darkens. Darkness. We're going to get this right eventually. All right, there we go. Okay. Cave, forest, cave, forest. So it's 80%. I mean, I always put a line break here first. Let's not debug this. Let's not debug inside this. Let's just collect. So 80%, based on a 75-25 probability, that I'll take those. I'll take that bet. We're not guaranteeing that number of we're not guaranteeing 75% cave and 25% forest. We're just saying those are the odds every time you roll for a step. So I feel a little better about that. Let's try 100. And then I'll have to take this to Excel or something to do the math. Let's open up. Google Sheets coming up. Let's put it on screen. There we go. Gotta go back and get these values. Nope. That was wrong. Okay, and then how do I count? Yeah, Google Sheet. Count same values in column. Is it count if? I don't know if that's what I'm after. Does this work? Nope. What's the criteria? How do you do the criteria for these? I don't want unique. Oh, wait. Is it just a single quote, double quote thing? Probably. All right, so 75 caves. Well, all right. Yeah, that's working pretty well. I'm shocked. I'm shocked. Wow. Wow. Okay. Wow. I'm just not being patient. I want to try it with 1,000. Or see if it chokes. We'll find out. That's 75% right on the nose. Okay, clear that. Run this. 1,000? Did I do 1,000? Yeah. Let's see if it can handle it. It did it. It might not be happy about it, but it did it. Okay. Let's see. 742. Pretty close. Equals, let's take the sum. Let's just take this plus this divided by this plus that. I mean, again, it's working. It's doing what it needs to do. That tells me that the probability is good. I think. I imagine that as it actually, the 100 coming down right to a T on 75 and 25% was like, that was enough to confirm that. But they might drift a little as you just get more options, but they're also going to drift in like a fractional percentage. So cool. Probability is working. I'm just not being patient. So what do we do with that now? I think we should have images for each of the. We can start with images for each of the steps because we can render that. We've got our magic image displayer thinger from files. Omaticatron. Okay. All right, let's go with let's put some images in there. So, recalling our little image feature component, I should say, we do have an LWC whose sole purpose in life is to show images based on content versions on a record. So this component takes it wants a content version ID, and it either it also wants it either wants a content version ID. You can pass that in if you know it, or give it a linked entity ID, which is AKA the record that the file was uploaded onto, and then give it some content document title filter. So the whole notion behind this is, we can find our org again. We go to our characters. Here's Thor. He has a file called Thor _ headshot. So what we're looking for is in this case, and I can probably just show this in the in our character component. Here it is. Content version image. The linked entity ID is the character record ID. That's this. It's getting past that at some level. And then we're just looking for whatever something headshot. So this allows us to store multiple images on the same record and have different purposes for them. I suppose we could filter this differently, but this seems fine. So let's take this and go up to our we actually could, I think we could go up higher. I think we could make this I think we could make this component accessible to the flow. We're going to take this out. We don't use this anymore. Because here we are working with the turn, and the turn knows about the round knows about the quest step knows about the quest. So we can get there from here, I think. So I'm going to tune this component that we just this content version image to support flow parameters, and I'm going to do that by stealing from another component that has the same stuff. So content version image meta, we're going to make it exposed now because it's not just being called by LWC. As a child, it's a top level component now. And we want our properties to match, so we can pass in these. Just going to dump these at the bottom so I can copy paste. So the content version ID is something that could come in. I'm going to call that a string. I don't know if ID is accepted here. I guess I should look that up. And this is the and our next option would be linked entity ID. This is also a string. Can you do help text? I should look. One more. Content document title filter. Probably should make that lowercase in the component as well. Okay. And that's a string. All right, I got those. Save that update to our content version image. I might need to fix that in a couple other places. I need to fix that in the character. No, I think it's okay. Yeah, because it lowercaseifies everything, so I think we'll be all right there. These are all matching. Let's just check the repeater where we use this so I can make sure I got my head on straight. Yeah, that should be it. It's the same, it's following the same pattern, so we should be good here. I love this little thing. There we go. Okay, let's refresh this. It should become available. Content version image. Oh, we should change the name of that. Make it a little friendlier. One thing it doesn't do is like take any parameters to support dimensions or anything like that. I guess that could be an enhancement at some point. Here we go. Going to delete this for the 100th time. This is going to be the step image, and the filter is what should we make it? I don't know, just image. It's fine. Content version ID. We're not using that. The linked entity ID is going to be step, or let's see. This is the round, right? This is the turn. Turn, round, step, step, ID. We actually need a file on the, or an image on that step. We are using Cave and Volcano So stable diffusion to the rescue. Enter your negative prompt here. I feel like something's missing. Oh, I see. It is just the prompt. Okay. A widescreen. Ooh, pixel art. That's going to take a minute. In the meantime, I think we would need the same. Is this our monster fight? Yeah, we could put it here too. This page in general needs a little zhuzhing. Um, what did I call it on the other one? Step image. Let's do player step image here, so it's a little more. Or really monster or player turn. Oh darn it, wrong one. Player turn image. Monster turn step image. Yep. So round or turn. Turn, round, step, step, ID. Stable Diffusion Web needs some. Looks like they need some ad sponsorship. I wonder how much a premium plan costs. Oh, error. Oh, sad trombone. But I don't want to pay for anything. Maybe we have to hang out on the screen to get it to not blow up. All right, we're all going to hang out for 47 seconds and root this on. Maybe it's having a little trouble today. Oh, there it is. Okay. I'll take it. Let's find our forest. We need to put files out here. Okay, where'd our image go? Oh, I forgot. I gotta rename it. All right, same prompt for a cave. It didn't really give me widescreen, but it's okay. It's going to look enormous on the screen, but that's just how it goes. Okay, did we save? Yeah, we saved. So let's debug. Although we haven't gotten a forest step yet, so I don't know if that's gonna. Oh, I have a dog that wants to go out. 1 sec. So let's get our cave image here as well. Ooh, spooky. Weird that, oh goodness, dog. Weird that it has a little dude in there. But yeah, again, I'll take it. Sounds looks good. Let's go find our cave step. There we go. Let's take a look. Drum roll. Aha! Success! Giant image. Giant image of cave. Successful. Cool. We need to do work on the layout here, but that's our little goofy component continues to do its thing. That's one thing with, I guess, if I were to retort some aspects of ScreenFlow's, well, I guess it's not really a ScreenFlow thing. It's really just maybe it is kind of a ScreenFlow thing. There isn't a lot of fidelity in the ScreenFlow itself that lets you say, hey, render this a certain way. I first noticed it down here with these. This is two column layout in the flow, but where you click, and it's kind of a function of where the event is being handled. But the event's being handled at a layer above, or a component above where this component is, or the image is. But it's the clickable space is this whole box. So that's kind of, not what we're after. But Anyway, yeah, we got an image. So it would be nice. I guess I say that because it'd be nice to have a little more control over how things are sized. Because otherwise, they just in a screenflow they just take up the space that's available. Not necessarily a bad thing, but something that would need to be managed. And with our image thing here, we'd have to maybe be able to say if it's masked to a certain size, or if we could even just give it a height. I don't mind if it's squished in this case, but for scaling purposes, there's you have to do some work on that component. But yeah, hey, cool. So we've got what have we done today? Well, we got I got my deck figured out, or my presentation kind of figured out for Cactusforce. We did some work on a little bit more work on RCDY or YCD RPG. Confirmed our probability invocable is working as expected, so that's pretty cool. Amazingly accurate. I think that was what was really wild. So this is 1,000 records, and then if I undo and go back to 100 records, like it's spot on. So I like that. That's pretty neat. I didn't really need to do this math. I just realized, like, hey, Tom, just move the decimal because it's 1,000 and it's the same number. Oh well. This is this is super close too. So yeah, I feel more confident in it now. And I guess that probably is a test. Like, I didn't really think about that in the moment, but that's not a bad test to run if you're dealing with something that does math. We can prove that it does math at in a single instance, and it does in our case here. What we can't do is, what we should also do is prove that it actually does what we said it would do in terms of probability. Which would be interesting to figure out how to do that without kind of preordaining the whole thing. I guess we could just do what we did here, run it 1,000 times, and see if the numbers are in a range. It could be tricky though. I guess if it was like I would accept something between, if I'm looking for 75% probability here, I would accept the whole number, the actual number of times we get the thing with 75%. I can't find my words today, y'all. To be somewhere between like 70, maybe 73 and a half and 76 or 77 or something. I think my camera just died on y'all. Let's see what happens if we do this. No, it's done. It's done with me. Doesn't need doesn't want to share my talking head anymore. Where did it go? I'm gonna peek over here a second. Well, technical support. Yeah, that guy just turned right off, didn't he? That's fun. Maybe it overheated. Oh. Yep. Hi. We're back. My encoder stopped encoding. Anyway, what's a good or a realistic range between these two? If it's 75%, maybe somewhere between 73 and 77, and if it's 25%, between 23 and 27, it'd be a reasonable range. I'd be happy with those. I wouldn't be happy if we said 75%, it would end up being 100. So we could test that. What else? What else do we have that we could start right now? I don't know that there is anything. So I might wrap a little early today, which is okay. Got a busy afternoon, and I mean, I got some, I got some work to do on that presentation, so I could definitely take the time back for that. But no, I'm glad. I feel a sense of success that we've got these steps working, and we've got a goofy image for each of them. And yeah. So next week there won't be a show because next week will be the show in Phoenix, or I'm sorry, Scottsdale for Cactus Dreamin', and that will that hopefully will be the show. I really hope I can stream. I'll definitely record, and we'll put it up later, and it should be fun. I'm excited. A little nervous because talking on stage is scary. I've done a lot, but it's still still it's unfamiliar, and this style is a little unfamiliar too. But I'm gonna do my homework and do my best and try to show up and put on a good show. So I think we'll wrap. I feel like that's at a good stopping place. Otherwise, we gotta, there's plenty to do. There's plenty to do with YCD RPG, but we'll carve off the next. Now that we have steps, we can start to describe things that steps do, right? Maybe certain steps allow for more monsters. I'm sorry, maybe certain step types allow for more monsters. And that would, influence, like, I don't know why, but forest. If I, grassland versus forest, maybe grassland maximum 2, forest maximum 4, or maybe more like a multiplier, right? Because I think our monster min max is defined at the quest level. But then we could have a little kicker based on the type of step. So be a multiplier, or a probability. Maybe not probability, because I think we we don't do anything with the number of monsters yet, so we have to random that out a little bit. But so that's, I guess, hey, what am I inventing? I'm inventing backlog items, which is something that we haven't looked at in GitHub in a minute. So let's go back over there. GitHub. Take a look at our backlog here. I do need to do some work on the issues and resolving them. I'm gonna sneeze again. Oh, that's so unsatisfying. You want to sneeze, but you can't sneeze. I don't think we have this documented yet. We need variable monster types, variable monster quantities. So we do have that to do. Let's also have, I'll call it step type multiplier. Example, grasslands equal 1x for monster count. Cave equals 1.5x for monster count. And I guess we should call this is really step multiplier for monster count. Okay. Documented. We'll get back to it at some point. But yeah, I mean, I think that could be a thing. So it shows an image, and it can have an influence on the number, or the number of monsters. It could maybe also have a well, it could have a lot of things. I won't invent more requirements yet. Probably the monster. First thing we gotta do is get the variable monster quantities down and the variable types down, because right now we just do a ghost and a goblin every round, or I'm sorry, every step. So we need to randomize that a little bit. We need to account for the fact there may not be monsters. Right? You could get lucky, I guess. I don't know if we want that to happen, because if there's odds of that, then what are the odds that you don't ever get a monster? But yeah, I'm gonna wrap. I think that's it. That's it for the show. Let's not start anything new. Thank you for coming. Thank you for playing. Thank you for hanging out. Like I said, next week the show will be Cactusforce, so I'll try to stream that, and if we can, cool. If not, well, we tried. But we'll wrap it up here. So I appreciate everybody that stopped by. Recordings will be on YouTube. I need to check those, but I think they are, and I might need to upload a. I'm very behind on uploading old shows before having switched my streaming service, which I think now automatically saves one to YouTube. So either way, thanks for coming. I'm Tom. You can't do that on Salesforce, but actually you can. See you next time. See you next week from Cactusforce.